Yep. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Bill Holton, and this is Field Trial Central Live. This is episode number 16. Tonight, we are honored to be joined by Adrian Jackson. Adrian has a training, field trialing kennel in West Texas, Northwest Texas. Adrian spends a lot of time working bird dogs on wild birds, getting dogs ready for field trials, and he runs a guide truck also. Pretty busy, I would assume, most years. So, Adrian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Bill, for having me. I really was honored when you text me and called me about this opportunity. So I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for considering me.
Oh, you bet. Adrian's someone I consider a friend. I will go back a long time ago that one of the favorite braces I ever had running bird dogs in a field trial was braced with Adrian at the ABHA National Championship in Texas. Adrian was running Poker Straight Flash, and I was running Berg Brothers High Test Roxy. Two nice setters, did a heck of a job. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was really a good time.
I was trying to think of that derby you ran that you end up a few years later winning some championships with. That was probably the nicest setter derby I've ever seen.
There was some nice derbies at that time. There were some nice setters there. We had some between the two of us. I think we had about all the setters that were running the field trial, but there were some pretty good ones. So, it was fun. I can't remember. I think that if I remember right, Berg Brothers head turner Lizzie might have been a derby then. Yeah, and she won a couple championships. Did really good. Won an amateur championship with Scott Berg handling her. She was just a really good bird. Nice bird dog, beautiful on point, beautiful running. Out of Alamance, Little Rock. So nice dogs. Yep, it was a lot of fun. So, let's maybe I should just clean up a little bit of housekeeping like I generally do. This is going live, as everybody probably can tell, live on Facebook. It's going live on YouTube. It will also be stored on YouTube for all time and Facebook also. So anybody that's watching, make sure you share this, get the word out about field trials and what we're doing. We're really getting close to field trial season. There's been a couple field trials that have happened here in the last couple of weeks in Pennsylvania and Michigan and probably elsewhere. I think the first big trial coming up is we'll start a week from today in the National Amateur Pheasant Championship in Circle, Montana. That will be a lot of fun for everybody involved. It's a great grounds, a lot of birds. Hopefully the weather holds on good for them. And probably the Sunday after that will be the first solo show that I will do on a Sunday evening. So it'll be basically just a news show, just kind of an update on what's happening in the field trial world as far as results. So, keep an eye out for that. We'll get that going here and kind of try to keep that going throughout the whole season. So with that said, Adrian, once again, thanks for coming on. Give us a little background on who Adrian is and how you got started in bird dogs and field trials.
Well, I was a late bloomer. So I'm originally from Lake Charles, Louisiana, born and raised. How I made it up to this part of the country is I played college basketball. So I played 2 years at Clarendon College. And then I got married right after my sophomore year. I graduated with an associate's. And then my wife and I and my oldest daughter went over to Oklahoma Panhandle State University. That's why I ended up getting my degree. My wife got her degree from there. But that's actually also when I got into bird dogs. So I got into bird hunting first. I lived in married student housing, and the dirt roads is just right there. So I used to go run up the dirt road, to stay in shape. I would get to the corner, and a whole flock of these birds would get up out of the corner of the wheat between the wheat and the cornfields. I didn't know what they were, and I got to asking around, and somebody said, "Man, those are pheasants, and you can hunt them in December in Oklahoma." So I went to Hooker, Oklahoma, got my hunter safety license. My wife bought me a Mossberg 500 pump from Walmart. And from starting on December 1st, that'd have been about 94, I tried to kill one of those birds every day. The last day of the season, I ended up shooting a rooster, the last day. And there's actually a picture with me and my oldest daughter in like this rooster shrine with shotgun shells all around it. That next spring, somebody had mentioned, hey, they hunt those with dogs. So the next spring, I'm looking in the Amarillo Globe News, and I see a German short-hair male for sale for $50. So jumped in my little sports car, drove to Amarillo from Goodwill, Oklahoma, and met Dr. Kendall, Mike Kendall, and I bought a German short-hair male, which I named Mike. And I worked that dog all summer on wild pheasants. They had wild baby pheasants all over the western Texas, Oklahoma panhandle. That somewhere before the season started, a farmer seen me, and he says, hey, I'll give you another dog. I'll let you hunt on my land if you take this other dog. So, of course, I want as much hunting land as I can get. So followed him to his house, and he had another short-hair female. That was Christy. And I worked them two dogs going out of style. Now, I didn't know what working was. I basically just turned them loose on wild birds, and that was it, and really enjoyed it. My wife and I graduated in December, and then we moved to California's Boys Ranch, where I live and work today. So I got to meeting several guys up here, and they all had English pointers, and I had them two short hairs. Well, those English pointers were just so much better than my short hair. I took a whooping from them Texas guys. But I met an older gentleman named Jim Nugent, and Jim he had one time served as Region 7 secretary and president and secretary of the Panhandle Bird Dog Club, which is a horseback field trial. And I think back in the day, they also did some walking trials up in Lee Forest and then all up around Arnett. And so Jim is actually who kind of showed me the mechanics of training, so that there were actually some techniques involved in training. And so I hung out with Jim as incredible amount of time. And Jim was actually the person that took me to my first field trial, which was in Lee Forest, Texas, right around 97, 98. I met J.C. Prince, hung out with Virgil, met all Gary Hill, Dan Hendricks, all those guys, the Region 7 guys that would go up and run in that Lee Forest trial, which was the first trial of the season in this part of the country. It was hot. It was brutal. Around September, it was brutal. But that's actually when I kind of fell in love with field trialing, because, man, I've seen some really great dogs down there. They were tough. They ran in the heat. They were classy. They were solid. So I ended up about a year later buying a female from Dan Hendricks out of House's Rain Cloud. Many of you guys know her offspring, which was Phantom's Last Dime.
Oh, wow.
Jack Stormin' Lady. So I used to name all my dogs Jack Stormin' or Jack's whatever. That was way before Poker Straight. And so Lady was the first dog that got notoriety as being an incredible wild bird dog. I hauled this dog all over the place. And I ran her in a few NSDRA trials, and I placed. And I didn't care for that trial format much. But so Lady out of House's Rain Cloud was one of my first known dogs. Shortly after that, here come Poker Straight Flash. So which many people know Flash. So yeah, that's kind of how I kind of got going in bird dogs.
Wow, that's awesome. A great story. Yeah, it's a theme that comes back, and we never know where they're going to come from, right? But there's mentors that really, get us stuck in this sport. There's a lot of people that'll maybe introduce us to the sport, but there's mentors that teach us, right? And it sounds like you had a couple there, and then obviously built a lot of friendships within the sport. I know Virgil, probably has been one that's been pretty close over the years, and just a lot of people in that country.
Yes.
My everybody's concern, I think, is why don't we have more field trials in Texas anymore? But that's what we'd like to see.
Yeah. Well, Texas is a strange place because it's a quail hunting paradise, but it also has a huge economical value to it that a lot of guys guide doing. The best part of field trial season turns out to be the best part of guide season. That was the issue I ran into as being president of the American Bird Hunters Association, was trying to schedule trials around majority of people from South Texas were all guides. And so there were certain dates that you couldn't have a trial on, especially when the season got going for them, the quail season got going for them. And the same thing was kind of true for me too, was that, I started guiding a lot, and because guides is a pretty big demand in Texas. And so that you kind of got to pick your poison, either you guide or field trial, or, it's kind of tough. To go back to your statement about mentors, I think that's the paramount. If you go back and look at every successful field trial trainer, right behind him was a successful field trial trainer and mentor. And I think that's what we have to do moving forward, is we got to figure out how to mentor the next generation of field trialers, because they're not always your blood, the next generation, And so
most of the time they're not.
Yes, sir.
And that's it's a theme that keeps coming. And I know, kind of, we've had some great guys, some great people that have been on here that have all said the same thing. And a number of them, have had the same mentors, right? Richie Robertson has been one for a number of people. Robin Gates has been one for a number of people. And you don't know, I would believe that Richie, did it because he loves the sport and he likes the people that are around it. And you don't know how important you can be all, down the road, what kind of a lineage you can, you'd leave, what kind of a tree there is. So, that's one of those things we have to get our arms around it. How do we best do that? And I guess, that was a question that I had for you a little bit, was, you're someone that works with youth. How do we, and it's not always going to be the youth that are going to be the future of our sport, maybe, just because we don't, you got to have time, you've got to have some money, you got to have, it's not like, oh, I want to be a field trialer so everybody can just take off and do it. Cause it's not the most expensive thing in the world, but it does take some time, and at different ages in our lives, we don't always have that, or it's not important enough yet to spend the time that way. When I got started, I didn't really have a lot of time. I had a lot of kids, but it was important, so we made it work. It probably looked absolutely insane to everybody looking at me from the outside.
Same here.
But that's what we did. It was enjoyable. It was, it was really a good thing for me, and it has been, for a really long time. A lot of great friends and relationships in the sport. So yeah, I guess that's one thing. We have to figure out a way we can. I don't know. It's really, you can't. I don't know how you structure a mentorship program, but I think it's important. I think we have to try to find a way to do that.
Yeah. Well, there you can make an income from bird dogs, and many people have done that. That has not been what I wanted to do as a profession, full time. I have a full time job. I have two full time jobs, because taking care of all those dogs is a full time job along with the horses. And my son has about 200 racing pigeons, so it's a full time job. And so, but one of the things one of my standing principles is, do make money in something that you're good at, and then what you're passionate about, you do it as much as possible. Yeah. And so that's where bird dogs fall in for me. It's what I'm passionate about. So passionate, I got to do it twice a day.
Yeah, right.
And so what that does allow you to do when you expand on your passion, though, is that all the little things become motivators. And one of the things that's a big motivator is me, is seeing the transition from a puppy to being a well-started dog to a broke dog. And one of the things I do at night sometimes, and my wife gets on to me about being on my phone, is I go back to my Poker Straight Kennels site and I can find a dog that I'm starting with a check card, and you can search all the way through to find that dog with me flushing a wild covey in front of him. And to me, that's what being a trainer is that's the motivating factor to getting up when it's 12 degrees and having to go bust ice buckets, or going out there when it's 100 degrees and having to go do your work when it's hot. Is that when those little transitions that you get to see that nobody else get to see. They get to see a puppy and they get to see a finished dog. But a trainer gets to see the little bitty steps that a dog takes. And man, that makes you get up in the morning and go snap a lead back on that dog the next day. And to watch those little transitions, the little things that you can't even explain, that how it works and why it works. All of a sudden that dog puts the wool breaking together. How sudden that dog all of a sudden is steady to wing and shot and not losing composure when you're walking back to him. And so those little bitty things, the little bit of stroking them up, the little bit of roasting them up and making them style up, the little bit of barrel work that you do, every time that you load them up, the way you're doing it when you're loading the dog up, it's all those pattern repetitive things. It really helps create those pathways. And as a trainer, you get to see that, and no amount of money can be paid for those experiences.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And it's I think that for people like us that like to have animals around us, obviously you've got horses and you've got dogs, and the pigeons are, a whole nother thing, that being able to watch these animals, grow through those processes is huge. It's what feeds us. I think in most cases, a lot of us like the field trial. We enjoy watching other people's dogs when they're doing a great job. But the real feed of it comes from, working dogs every day or twice a day or 3 times a week, if that's what a guy has time to do, So I think you're hitting that right on the head, that's the process is what's really fun for me at this point in life too. I spend a lot of time, way more time just, working dogs and running dogs on wild birds, even, not just even just like I always did if I was training for the public, because, being able to get young dogs and seeing them point their first sharp tails, here, this time of year and kind of getting it all put together is really a lot of fun,
Yeah.
So, and that's one of the things, boy, you sure like to be able to impart those feelings you have on somebody else. So it's hard to do that. It's hard to say, hey, we've got the best thing going. We're outside, we got dogs and horses and guns and birds and we're not, with the exception of at this point in my week, we're not sitting in front of screens, which we might have to do during the day while working, so it's one of those things that gets us, fired up. So we gotta find a way to pass that on to the next generation of bird dog people and field trialers.
Well, the most important thing is when I first started, because I never set out to be a trainer. It kind of happened by accident. A guy seen me. I guided a hunt. He seen my dogs. He called a gentleman named Richard Webb from Houston. Richard called me and said, "Hey, I hear you're a trainer." And I was like, "Not me. I'm not a trainer." And he says, "Well, I hear you got some nice dogs. I like you to do the same thing you did with your dogs with my dogs. And my driver's going to bring up you a couple of dogs." He brought a trailer full of dogs. All of them had problems. Every one of them, from laying down. And listen, I didn't know nothing. I didn't know even a third of what I know. So one of the things I did learn from Jim Nugent is, at the end of the day, your best training techniques is dirty hands, dirty boots, and wet saddle blankets.
Yep.
If you don't know nothing else, you can get out there and just work that, have that sucker out. That's what I did with Christy and Mike. I didn't know what I was doing back in the day, but I got out there and I walked many miles over those CRP fields. And so you still got that. And so that's something you can transition to somebody getting into the sport, because equipment today is very high. If you look at just the equipment that I have to be a trainer, dog trailers, horse trailers, dog pens, ATVs, 1-ton trucks, that when you look at all that, that's overwhelming to a young person. So one thing a mentor can do is help that person have access to equipment. So by taking them with you, so that's what Jim did. Jim took me with him. And so I didn't have all the equipment. The next thing is having access to land. That's the second biggest thing that a young trainer just have a hard time getting the footing, having a place to work dogs, and that has good cover and the ability to have wild birds, et cetera, like that. And so I think those are important things to help people get over the hump, because once they get their foot settled, then they can start picking up equipment, But I can see if somebody drive out to my place and see what my wife sees, they'll say, "Man, I can't get into this because there's just so much equipment that I've accumulated." But what people got to realize, you upgrade as you go. I started off with an old homemade dog trailer,
Yep. Yeah. And, I pulled a wood one around for a long time, and if you saw the vehicles I pulled it around with, you'd shake your head. But I think that's something that needs to be, restated. That you started with 2 German short hairs, one you bought for $50, and the other one cost you a whopping nothing, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and look where that's got you. And I think that's the way it has to start. I mean, I think for most people, if you come in here and you say, "Well, I'm just going to, buy a horse trailer and horses and dogs, and I'm just going to go out and win championships," I don't care who you have for a mentor. Those people, it doesn't work, right? Because it's you need to. I'm not saying you have to do it the way that you or did it or I did it, but it really works best if we're starting with one dog and we're learning as we go. You know? And a lot of people have already had that one dog, right? They've had the the Brittany or the short hair or the pointer or setter that they've been hunting with, or maybe they had a lab and now they just got their first pointing dog. I've seen it all different kinds of ways. Yeah. So we just got to be able to know that there's not as big barrier to entry as a lot of people think. Yes. So, we need to get there and get around people that do this. So,
I ran puppy stakes when I first started. I remember calling Tom Woods Jr., driving all the way up there, meeting him, and then him and his family, we drove down to Sallisaw, Oklahoma. I was running my first puppy, my first dog in a field trial. It was a little dog out of Cooper's Dusty Rail and Fiddler's Golden Star that I bought from Keith Foreman in South Oklahoma. Really classy dog. Ended up later on in his life getting hit by a train. Fortunate. Just the accidents with bird dogs, but I placed that dog as the first time I met Scott Miller, Stan Went, Terry Smith, the whole Oklahoma bunch. Yep. And so I ran there. I ran up in Oklahoma quite a bit. It was a little easier trip just to run down I-40, go to Jerry Myers' place. I think that's where most of those guys flash at, was over at Jerry Myers' place.
Sure.
Long by then. And then I think the first championship I judged was on Jerry Myers' place.
Okay.
I believe that's correct. When I judged a walking championship, a Region 8 walking championship up in at Jerry Myers'. But yeah, get in the puppy stakes. They kind of competitive, You bet. People that makes their living selling puppies, and they run them in puppy stakes. But it was kind of fun for me. In fact, I still kind of enjoy running a puppy every now and then.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what happens so many times is a person has a dog and they have a good dog, but they don't know they have a good dog until it's 4 years old. Yeah. And by that time it's kind of hard to get started. You go to your first field trial with a 4-year-old dog, that you go and you get your teeth kicked in some, and it's hard to enjoy it. But if a person can start, with puppy stakes or derby stakes. And I know I had my first dog I ever ran in field trials was a red setter, ran her in puppy and derby stakes at the same time. And she placed in the first stake, and that, I don't know, I can't imagine what that's cost me. I suppose it's 7 figures now, but yeah, it's you just go, right? Take those young dogs and it gives you a chance. What puppy stakes are for, right? It gives the dogs a chance to learn what a field trial is, and it gives a handler a chance. Yes. Come to derbies, come to puppy stakes, and yeah, a lot of fun. Well, those are great memories. Jerry Myers, there's going to be a few people. Jerry's dogs haven't been showing up lately. So those would be the trails and setters. Some people are going to see them in their pedigrees when they look back there. And obviously Scott Miller was a top field trial handler for a really long time. Stan Wendt is great field trialer owner and judge of the national championship. So that's one thing I want to talk about. You've been pretty sought after as a judge the last several years too. What do you like about judging field trials?
Well, I had to start making some decisions. I started moving up in my job here, and so I had to say either I field trial or train gun dogs. Because you know as well as I know, to get a field trial dog top notch condition, it takes some time. You roding and working and those kind of combinations, and so I decided to really concentrate with gun dogs and starting field trial dogs and fixing field trial dogs problems. Kind of what I do today is people will send me a field trial dog to straighten out or a young dog to get some yard work on. And so the judging part was I just had this thought one day about how can I impact the field trial world? And so I can't, as a handler, win enough championships to impact the field trial world. But as a judge, I can name the next champion that will sire the next champion that will sire the next champion that can impact the field trial world. And so that's why I have agreed to do a lot of judging. I like judging. Because I like watching bird dogs. And so there's no better seat in the house than up front,
Right.
I think people like my understanding and knowledge on how I judge. They like my fairness. I don't care who's handling the dog. I don't care who the dog is. Most time I don't even know the dog name. I know them by their registered name. I don't know them by their kennel name, and don't care, And I don't care if it's a pointer setter, Brittany, or whatever on the ground. If they doing a good job, they hitting the front to the lick. They having dead ahead finds. They're positive on their game work. They're stacked and top notch, and they're doing it on their own. They're going to get the nod from me. And I think most people have realized that no matter who's handling what the dog is, if he's laying it down for the stake that he's in, he's going to get the nod from me. And
that's great.
That's my values on that. So.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You think, we really value judges. They're important. They're hard to come by a lot of times. I don't want to say good ones are hard to come by a lot of times, but it's just hard to get enough people that have the time to do it, or that can take time away from, or want to take time away from running their own dogs to trial. And I think the view you have on that is important. I think that's, it's really awesome, because you're right. I mean, the dogs that are placing in those field trials, those championships, in big stakes, they stamp a footprint, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I don't hear a lot of people that have made a decision to judge a lot state that importance. It doesn't mean they don't believe it, but the fact that you stated says something, because it's really, it makes perfect sense.
Well, the other thing, Bill, the thing I can contribute to a club that's asking you to judge is to be a fair judge. Because if you are a club president or a secretary and you're spending all your free time putting on a trial, and you're taking all these entries in, the one thing you want to give your participants is fair judging. You can't guarantee them nothing else but fair judging. And so that's what I like to do. I want to make sure that club gets entries the next year. And so by judging fair and placing the dogs as I see fit, many times when I come out of the building or wherever they're announcing, people say, I had it that way. That's the way I had it. Or I had it close to that way. And so to me, that's just telling you that, hey, you kind of getting it right. There's no perfect getting it right, but you're kind of getting it right, I tell you a funny, one of my early on in my judging, a dog made I didn't see this. I couldn't ride a horse very well. Didn't grow up on horses, man, and wasn't comfortable. The horses that I had bought early on were dangerous, And so I kind of back there just kind of plodding around, and So birds are in the air, dog is moving, right? Man, really, I don't see any. I don't really know what's going on. So little Jim News, everybody used to say you can't judge what you don't see, right? But you got that in the back of your head, like what something bad just took place, right? But I'm not calling it. And then this dog is putting down a really good job. Like he's doing a really good job. And that handler kept looking back at me because he knew he had me. And everybody in the gallery, I think, seen what happened besides the judge that couldn't ride a horse very well, right? So his dog ended up right at about 5 minutes left in the stake, ended up making a mistake and was picked up. And he walked back to me and he said, I said to him, I said, that wasn't his first mistake. He said, I had you, didn't I? I said, yes, you did. I said, you had me. So here's what I learned from that, though. If there's something questionable that takes place, I learned to go say something to the handler because that way he's not surprised if I don't place him. Right. If I don't say anything and I don't place him, then one, he's going to count that mistake out. And then he's going to be like, hey, he was unfair to me, blah, 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 right? So I just learned to go say something. I said, hey, there's a questionable situation there. You got a little bit of a hill to climb, right? That doesn't mean he's going on the truck. That means I'm just acknowledging to the handler that you got a mark, not a negative mark, but not a positive mark, right? Yep. So they're just not surprised when their dog is not used. And I think that's what your contribution to the actual field trial scenario is. You just kind of let people know that, hey, I seen or didn't see. I also like to ride hard, and I like to see nowadays I can ride better. There were a couple of times that I actually seen the birds leaving a dog and was able to give a dog credit for a good piece of work that otherwise, if I'd have been laid back in the back, way back there, I wouldn't have been able to give a dog a credible piece of work. It would have turned into unproductive or something like that. And I was able to see it. And so I kind of ride hard. And I like to look. I like to stay attentive. I like to look and so I take judging pretty serious.
As a handler, that's something that's really appreciated, right? That you're a judge that's attentive and wants to get in the position where they can see what happened, whether it's, obviously if it's my dog and it's something bad happened, I'd rather you stay back there. But I want you to give every chance you can as a judge to see what's going on, right? To give them that, because sometimes, we affect what the birds do. The dog may affect what the bird does.
Yes.
But a dog could be pointed and we affect what the bird does as we ride up, we don't know. We never know what's going to, we can always fault the dog because they got too close or whatever. But very often, that those birds are leaving because they hear horse hoofs,
Wild birds. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, especially wild birds. I can't remember. I think Talmadge Spedley was talking. We were talking about this, and out there in that big country in Utah, there's a lot of times, he'll see a dog get pointed a long way away, hundreds of yards, right? And you can just watch how the birds react without a person there, just a dog and the birds. And he said, I remember him saying that, it just seemed like when I would get to be within whatever it is, 100 yards or 40 yards, the birds would leave, but it was always like the same distance. Something said that's not the dog causing that. That's something else that's affecting it. And so it's good as a judge to be able to get in there and and try to sort that stuff out. Where you can see that happen.
Well, the wild birds on my training grounds, they you can't do all that hooping and hollering because they gone. They've known that scenario so many times,
right?
If you're not and how you become better handler is that when you're running dogs in a workout, you got to kind of handle that way. You kind of got to polishing up your showmanship, so to speak. And the same thing is true for judging. When I'm out running dogs, I kind of be looking at the scenario, looking at why this dog took this edge, and then how did they come off that edge? One of the most important things to me as a judge is seeing what a dog does after a fine. Does he plod around, roll in the grass, or does that sucker hit the next hill or catch that line and punch it to the front? I really like a dog that punches to the front after a fine. Ed Tilson had a little Brittany up in north of Malta, Montana one year when I judged up there. And she probably had the best quality fine, a Brittany, believe it or not, that I've ever seen at a field trial. She was, she was just a dot out there. And we had to ride around the fence all the way to her. She was positive on those sharp tails. But because of being so deep in there, we were behind.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And you can't win a field trial from the field trials in the front, Yep. And Bill, that dog hit the front and knocked the front out and caught the other dog, went in there another 300 yards, and bam, had another fine on some. And that old poor horse I was on just was wore out just in that one 25, 30-minute brace. But then you think about that. That's the difference between a field trial dog and a hunting dog. Is that punching to the front, catching that front, and then going in there and stabbing another group of birds. And I think that's when young people, that's the kind of things that they need to hear when they start in field trial. And it's not just finding these birds right off the path,
right,
or right in front of you. It's just a dog getting in there, and the way a dog getting to their birds is just as important as a dog pointing birds. It's how did they get there? What moves did they make to get there? How did they use to win? Of course, their style is very important. So, yeah.
Well, one of the things that I kind of had in the back of my mind to talk about when we were getting together with the amount of judging you're doing is, what are you looking for in a field trial performance? And I think we've gotten most of that without asking the question, right? So, it's important. But one thing that I think is important that you bring to the field trials as far as the judging saddle is the amount of time you've spent behind wild bird dogs, and in hunting, not just in hunting situations, but a lot of it in hunting situations, because you get to see so much. For the amount of time you spend on the ground, there's a lot of knowledge, and you're watching dogs, right? Not only, because that's how we do it when we're out. We're bird dog guys, so that's what we're watching. We're worried about birds, and we're worried about our guide customers, or even if we are just out on our own. The focus is you're always judging, right? Even your own dogs, even if you're training, you're judging. Mm-hmm. So I think there's so much to be learned there, and I have to believe that a lot of those decisions that you've made in the judging saddle have been greatly benefited from that.
Yeah, when Flash was 5 years old, so he had a period where I ran him a lot, and then there was a period where I didn't get to run him because I was doing other things. I was guiding, I was moving up in the company, and so he got to run sporadic, and even with that, he ended up with 26 placements, and I didn't quite have, and 2 championships, a couple of classic wins. I think he won Dog of the Year in ABHA. But one of the things that always resonated with me is one of my good buddies, Leon Hollis, who would come out and work dogs with me, and I had the birds that year. Bill, was just crazy. Like you can run a dog on that river and have 19, 20 covey fines in an hour.
Wow.
Like it was crazy numbers. And Leon and I was running Flash one day from four-wheeler, and Flash was winning birds from an incredible distance. And Leon rode up there one day, and Leon says, "A champion does champion things." And here's where he was right on that. Every dog that I've had that was a current champion or won a champion, they did certain things in workouts that just the normal dogs didn't do.
Yeah.
Flash was one of them. I used to have this dog called Richfield Turbo. I took him to run gamels I don't know why I took him to hunt gamels in Arizona, because he was a lot of dog, and he had a big gas tank. And I've never, those guys that told me they'd never seen a dog be so positive on gambles. He had those gamble quail right under his nose. And that's the kind of dog he was.
Yep.
It was just something about that dog. He could accurately locate his birds. And so he just you always, those dogs that are champions, that won champions, Bill, you probably can recall the same things on the dogs that you've had. They just did certain things, even when they were little puppies. They just did certain things other dogs didn't do. And so I wish you can qualify that and then weed them out quicker.
Yeah.
That's
right.
never the case. But when you recalling back those dogs, another dog that I can't think of the dog's name now. He's a current champion. He came to me because he couldn't, he wasn't staying steady on his birds. He was coming, as the season would progress, he was coming looser and looser. Man, that dog. So his first, I got a video of his first cubby found on my place of some little baby birds, and but he would paw up. And so one of the things that I brought him back to some yard training and some pigeon work, and then I put him back on birds, and I was running through there on horseback, and this dog was going down an edge, and he swapped ends and slid back about 4 feet, threw his old head up, and then you're like, okay, he got it now, and I walked there, put up those birds. He was pat. I got on my horse. I rode around him. He never left, never dropped his style. Then I whistled him on, and we went on. And then you're like, okay, that dog went on a month after that and won another championship.
Yeah, that shows you, what these dogs are capable of, and they will. And sometimes they'll backslide a little, right? That's why you got to work them. That's why you work them every year, right? You keep working them.
Exactly why you do that.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. So, there was something you were saying there that made me, that I thought of something else while we were talking. But so tell me about some performance you have seen judging, like that Brittany you talked about, right? A couple of them out there, whether it's judging or maybe while you were field trialing, you saw somebody else run a dog. Tell me about a couple of those that stand out.
I mean, I hate to talk about Flash because Flash was actually my best dog. I wish I owned Flash right now, where I have all the more resources, more finances, because Flash would be on a major circuit shooting dog ring, and man, I think we would get something done. So I'll just kind of tell you the gamut because I get to judge a bunch of different breeds. Of course, I've seen some outstanding. I judged the Lone Star a couple of times. I've seen some outstanding dogs that Sean Kinkler ran, Virgin Moore ran, that group of shooting dog trainers. I'm trying to recall the gentleman's name. I judged Region 7, I think three or 4 years ago. That's and there was a pointer, Cecil Rester's pointer, big pointer of Cecil Rester's. Wild bird stake over there in north of Abilene on the Crooked Tree Ranch, and they had birds that year. And that dog had, I think, 4 or 5 quality finds, spaced out evenly. They all were they all were at the end of big casts. He stayed to the front, but most part is that country is full of cactus and rocks. That dog never wavered in his race. His race stayed really consistent. The runner-up dog did just as good of a job with Dr. McIntyre's dog, Nemaha Nighthawk.
Yeah,
Nemaha Nighthawk. That dog probably had the best find of the stake. He went in some deep mesquites, didn't come out. Pat rode in there. I followed him walked in front of the dog, had to relocate. Dog went about another 50 yards, stuck that group of birds, big old wad of birds. Pat put them up. Dog was Pat. It's really important to me that a dog doesn't lose their style. Run against Scott Miller and seeing Scott Miller dogs who were stone cold broke. You knew you couldn't win. You can get a piece of nothing if your dogs let down any style. So that was kind of important to me. Tom Tracy Jr. had a Brittany that I judged up in Nebraska. And this dog, so that's when they changed the course where they would run through the bottom and come run through the sand hills. And this dog ate those sand hills up now. I mean, and you know, it's hard to keep a dog to the front in the sand hills, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, because they want to run the bottoms, you know? This dog would hunt those bottoms and come right over top, and we'll hustle to the next hill and didn't need no scouting. And then when he got to those bottoms, didn't even drink any water, just tore those bottoms up. I think he had 2 pheasant finds and 1 sharp-tail find. We named him champion of that, and beautiful. Another really nice performance actually wasn't that long ago was Kelly Aiken's Red Setter.
Okay.
That dog did a really nice job from the standpoint that it probably needed a little better scout than she had. The dog was really strong and forward. He had one of his finds was when he was catching the front and he was taking this cut and stabbed a group of birds right there. And then his last find of the day, and it's getting kind of late, and he's rimming this mott, and what she was wanting him to do, what we were wanting to do, was take another hard swing, and we see him crossing the front, and he finishes way in the front. He never showed. She sent the scout, and like I say, the guy didn't look very comfortable on the horse. He rode in there, and on the very edge where that dog would have been turning was right there on a group of birds.
Oh.
And that's where time was up right on that find. He was patent perfect, good quality race. Probably would have had a little cleaner run if he had a little stronger scout. But to say that was that race was in my head a little bit. That how good of a quality of a run. One of the other things I want to point out too is I judged the Cajun Classic, Virgil and I, for Bubba Spencer. Very quality all age trial. You know, one thing I do like about judging open all age is most 99.9% of dogs are good. I don't care what people say about the all age dog. They got to run big. They got to handle. One of the dogs that we did use for second or third was Steve Hurdle's dog. That Calvin, he had only 1 find, but God, he finished. He finished. Oh my God.
No.
That was a finish. I think we also used Rick Peterson dog for second, and that dog had, just a really clean, nearly perfect, showy to the front all age race. I think 2 finds on that, and then the winner was a guy from Mississippi, Larry Huffman. One of those Wild Again Sparkles dogs that just kind of went through there and just
fine, maybe.
Head ahead front. 3 or 4 quality finds, and just near. You couldn't ask for a more flawless race actually from the dog we used at Winter. When you turned the corner, he was down there standing, hot tail high, looks good at pad. Birds are positively located, and one time he had a group of birds just come balling up in his face, and he stayed patent perfect. That Derby stake that year too was just as good. The Derby stake was very, very strong. Gray Street, Texas Gray Street, was at that. He did not place that day. He didn't have any bird work, and the dogs that we placed all had an all-age Derby race and bird work, so we couldn't use a dog that didn't have any bird work. But I told Virgil, I said, listen, that little dog there is going to win. Sure enough, that little dog been winning. That Texas Gray Street.
That's a good one.
Few of dogs that I've seen. Of course, I would say probably one of the best walking dog races I've seen was a Chafalai Spectre that was being run by Scott Miller. First, that dog had no business in walking stakes. but Bill, you knew this. None of the dogs.
I was going to say, no.
We were fools, weren't we? Walking behind some of the stuff that we would run. And when I would go run with the horseback guys, they would say, you walk behind that dog?
That's right.
You're not really kind of behind them.
Yeah. We're in the same area.
We're in the same area. We're in the same county at least. Yeah. But a Chafalai Spectre, and I believe it was in Sallisaw, Oklahoma, where I've seen him run. One of the times I've seen him run a bunch of times. Man, that dog he had a good lick about him. And look amazing on his birds, but his lick, just the way he went through that country, it looked like he was had some rocket boosters attached to him, and that was always impressive. And setter wise, I know I'm talking a lot, but I like talking about.
That's why you're here.
One of the most impressive placements was that I think that D dog of Bob Barker's. So I placed her first championship, Region 8, and her dad, Blue Jet, got runner up. And one of the things I liked about that dog, she was a young dog. I think she might have been either she was a Derby, I think, when she actually won that championship. Is the speed in which she was traveling. And Jeremiah's grounds, you can lose a dog pretty easy. They either want to funnel back down to the creek or get on that other side back down in that low spot. And that dog she'd be running through there, and you would see across the front just blazing. And you would get up there, and boy, she's standing. And I really like that performance. Her hour was very well balanced, and that's one of the things that's important to me when I'm judging is a very, very well balanced hour. That if a dog gonna start off like a rocket, it better end like a rocket.
Right. Yep.
So don't be doing those lows that those lows. I don't particularly care for those lows.
Yeah, if they're gonna start off really fast, they better hold it up, and if they start off a little slow, they better get stronger, right? I mean,
better get stronger. Yeah. I watched a lot of dogs. That was just something that kind of came to memory.
Absolutely,
really quick, and sometimes you don't be having nothing, and you be waiting, and it's coming. And one particular trial I was judging over in Grove Springs, it didn't come to the last brace after watching 50-something dogs. We finally got, but we did get a good one. Dog went through there and did a really good job. So, yes, sir.
Those are the challenges of judging sometimes, because that's like bird hunting too. You don't always, it's not always good, on that day or on 3 or 4 days in a row, it could be that way. So, that's one of those many challenges.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, I know you don't like talking about Flash, but remind us how he was bred.
So, Terry Tooley had raised a frozen semen litter out of La India Bow, bred to a sister of Destinaire.
Okay.
The mother would injure her puppy, so Terry had to hand raise them, right? And so these guys from Amarillo would go down to Terry. This is before I knew Terry very well. I knew of him, but I didn't know him very well. They would go down there and buy a whole bunch of young male dogs, yearling and younger, and bring them to Amarillo, and people would show up and buy them. And I was there with Jim Nugent, and they had this white pup, but his tail was kind of cut a little bit. And I really wanted that white pup, but that tail situation, I didn't want the tail to be cut. I had standards back then. So Jim bought that puppy. He bought that pup. And so I got to work that pup. And one day I go to Jim's house, and Jim hadn't got the papers on that pup. And he handed me the papers. Say, look at this. Because Jim knew Joe Coleman, and that pup was frozen semen out of La India Bow and La India Becky. Well, I had a female named Sunrise Nail, which was out of Tico Mountain Air and Ardmore's Nail. And so I took Nail and bred her to Jim's dog, and that's how I got Flash.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So Flash, and so that dog was very special. He's the only dog that his picture and pedigree is up in my house. My wife don't be wanting all that bird dog stuff all over the house.
Yeah. I don't know. We seem to be getting more bird dog stuff all the time. I don't know. It seemed like it wasn't there for a while, but now it's popping up. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now you had a setter here. Did you win the national ABHA? Yes. Now who was that dog?
So that was Poker Straight Jet Star. He was out of Barker's Blue Jet, and one of those dogs that Larry Carpenter owned. That cross. Well, he was a little mate to the D dog.
Blue Horizon. Yep.
He was a younger brother than Blue Horizon and Big Coon.
Okay.
And I bought him from Robert Dardine, and they say he was running too big. And so I bought him. I met Bob Barker at Region 7 when they ran it up in Allison, Texas. And so one of my buddies, Sammy Davis, and I took him out to this big country out here and turned those Star loose. And he did run big. Like Star did run big, but he handled easy, and he went with you. And man, I was really happy with him. He was probably 9 months old when I got him. So Star never did have a Derby year. I worked him and trained him, and I didn't run him as a Derby. He only ran as a shooting dog. And one of the things that he was an incredible wild bird dog. Star, and I got 2 of his sons, and they are incredible wild bird dogs.
Oh, good.
Incredible. So Star, he pointed too many birds at trials. I would run him in a walking stake, and that sucker have 12 fines, 12, 13 fines, and, don't go nowhere because he's on point all the time.
Yeah.
So I placed him over in LaGrange, Texas. And I placed him a couple of times, which qualified him to run that open invitational. And I believe he had 9 fines the first day and came back and had 9 fines the second day. And he was a really strong bird dog. He was good and broke. He was a dog that didn't make mistakes. He didn't have the best stamina, but you could road him and get him ready to get a good hour out of him. He was a look you up kind of dog. Kind of like Blue Jet. You could do anything with him. You could do anything with him. Unfortunately, Star had slipped off his barrel and hit his head, which caused him to start having some seizures,
yeah,
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yep. I can see that happening.
I did get 1 litter of pups out of him, and it was only 2 males. I leased the female from Terry Tooley that went back to that Jack dog of his.
Arbuckle or what the heck was that one? Arbuckle.
Gosh darn, if I could think of the name. But that Jack,
Cypress Creek Jack.
Yeah, Cypress Creek Jack out of Ted Special Touch.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So why I wanted Jack is, we should run those puppy stakes, and Terry would have all those puppies with Earl Elkins. Yeah, you couldn't beat them. Right. So I said, man, I kind of want some of that. And Jack Jack should have won every championship in Texas if he was broke. He was that good. So I think he did a good job that time you came and had a mishap on some birds. But Star was a very, very nice, very, very nice dog. He did pass it on to those 2 dogs on my guy's string. They number 1 and number 2. And they handled those Bobs and Blues amazing. Those 2 dogs. They're about 8 years old now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you brought up a dog and now we're talking about things that are probably only important to you or me, but Ted's Special Touch. Did you see that dog at all?
So much? I did see Ted.
It might have been right at the beginning of you.
Missouri, and back then there wasn't any. I think it was Flash was only the setter that was getting hauled in this part of the country. And Ted Special Touch, he won one of those championships. And man, I thought he was the cat's meow. Very tough running dog. Yeah. Looked amazing on his birds. I only seen him that one time. And then that's when I heard that Terry had bred to him and had that Jack out of him. But he was as good as any pointer out there.
Yeah, he was as tough as I saw him a couple times, and Scott Berg bred to him one time, and those turned out to be really, really good bird dogs, and won a few field trials, but not quite to the level of some of the other ones that we had around. But yeah, I just thought he to me was an impressive dog. Yeah, I just liked him. I thought he was my kind of dog, I guess I would say. He might have been a little bit of a renegade. He was tough, but neat dog.
Yeah, so, you need a little bit of a renegade in a setter anyway,
Well, yeah, I have, yeah.
Speaking of setters, the nicest setter I seen in a couple of years was that Yukon Cornelius dog.
Okay.
Yeah. When Ike Todd had him.
Yep.
Very impressive. That dog's going to have I don't know if he's still on the circuit or not, but if he's still on the circuit, that dog's going to have a bright future. It's a very nice set.
Yeah. Well, I think he won something here right at the end of the all age season. So maybe they are, ready to roll. I'm sure he'll be running up here in North Dakota, the end of the month or beginning of next month at the Alan Vincent's trials up there. So I believe
keep eyes on that. I think they named him Woodville, Yukon Cornelius. Now they renamed him.
Yep. That sounds right. Yep. That sounds right. So, one thing I guess I'd like to get your opinion on is you've judged a lot of places. You've been to a lot of field trials around the country. Give me a couple places that are your favorite field trial venues.
Well, I like the wild bird stakes, so I'm going to say that Crooked Tree, when they got birds, it's big old country. Now it's rough. It's rough on a horse. It's rough on a dog. It's got cactus on it, but I think that place shows a really, really nice wild bird, especially all age dog. It's really nice venue for an all age dog. I would probably say the best grounds in the Midwest is Grove Springs. Those big edges. To me, it's very nice field trial dog, especially a dog that wants to run, that knows how to run those edges. There's a good, decent amount of. They got a good release program over there. Probably outside of those kind of venues, the prairies, Montana. Even when we were outside of Great Falls, when I was for the Brittany people out there, multiple sharp-tail finds every brace. It was just incredible. It's just incredible. So I met those, and you can see a dog for days. If they got it in them, that country would take them.
Not a lot of places to hide.
No, none.
We
up there though. So I was at that trial that killed 36 rattlesnakes. I was judging that trial.
Yeah. The first couple years, 2-3 years of the Montana Open Shooting Dog Championship were held up at Malta, north of Malta. So it was a lot. Great. And that was a little earlier. It was like now.
I would be up there right now. Normally, whenever we would be judging, I'll be up there right now. So
no, it's neat country. I was out there not that long ago. I'm not a little bit south of there, but Glasgow and maybe 3 weeks ago. So pretty neat country. But that's one of those things that the other thing that we get to see, right, is some really really great country. I know I've seen some great ranches in Texas at field trials. I'm trying to think of which ranch it was that that Phantom's Wizard won the national
it was the Green.
It was on the Green Ranch. Yep, Albany or near Albany there. Yeah, won the Region 7 all age ran there, and then the National Amateur all age Derby championship ran.
Crooked Tree.
That
whole program's moved to the Crooked Tree.
It has, yeah. Well, I remember there was one find that he had there that was on the other side of a canyon, and there was only people who went over there was a judge and the handler, but it was picture still, right in my mind. I can't burn it out of there. So I think
Virgil was handling him, right? Virgil
was handling him. Yep. So it was fun. That was a good, and all the same, something like Dr. Pat. I think Pat won the Region 17, and Cecil Ruster may have been runner up.
Mm-hmm.
But that was great. It was a really good field trial. A lot of fun down there. That was good country. I was just there watching, and I was there. Me and Jim Michelitz was running a couple dogs. I guess he must have run. Yeah, he was running Jet Setter's daddy. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, so, I've seen Jet Setter run a couple of times over in Ardmore.
Sure.
People always talk about Jim Michelitz setters. That pointer, that big old black and white pointer he had was the real deal. The sucker's about 70 pounds.
Yes.
He's not known for that pointer, but he's known for those setters.
And Jim always had most of them he had more pointers than setters, and he had some really good ones. and obviously some really good setters too. But that litter, that jet setter. Oh, actually, I have a son of jet setter here, and I had a sister to jet also, and so I kind of partial to those dogs. But there was some. I know the first trial that I ever judged, that Jim was running in, it was a pointer won it. He was his dog won it. It was a pointer, but that was the bitch, Jill, and then he had a really nice that male. Gosh darn, what the heck was his name? But he's had a lot of good pointers over the years too. Yeah, good.
Oh, big rebel bred male. I think he's out of Fox Secret Rebel.
Yeah, that was what the heck was his name? That was what the heck was his name? I can picture him right down the road here pointing it was about this time of the year, and the soybeans here are right now about 3 feet tall, and he was standing above them. I think there was another dog in there. I think there was a setter in there pointing you couldn't see, and he was standing over the top of those things. That you wouldn't have believed it how tall, leggy he was. But he moved good too. I mean, he looked good. He looked good moving. Holy cow! What the heck was his name? Someone's going to text me tonight and tell me that what his name was. But yeah. Hey, we have a few comments over here. We'll kind of touch on these quick. That as long as we're here.
Yes, sir.
Who's this one?
That's my brother.
That's good. Yes. I think you probably know her too, right?
Yeah, that's my wife.
Yeah. Right here, Bruce Suter. Right?
I worked quite a few dogs for Bruce. He got a real nice strain of setter females.
Good.
He has one dog, setter female out of the Islander, I believe.
Okay.
Dog called Mary. Real deal. Dog's real deal.
Good. Well, Keith Hickam, friend of ours.
Yeah, we compete against each other a lot.
Yep. There you go.
Yes. In fact, I just seen Robert. My son sold him some pigeons.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Here's one of the best photographers in the country right here.
At the Cajun Classic, I got to know Vera.
You were talking about the Cajun Classic that you judged. Where was that held at? Which grounds?
It was Rick Peterson's grounds over there near Hickory Grove.
Okay. Here you go. They probably met them at the Cajun Classic too.
Yeah, that's Bubba.
Yep.
I worked at dog for Bubba. Bubba and I do a lot of dog business.
Okay, good.
In fact, he has a dog that one of my clients own today called Dirty Dirt, and true all age dog, Bill. And you ought to see this dog in front of a guide truck.
Oh, really?
3 hours. We run him the whole afternoon in front of a truck, 3-4 hours. Never gives it up. Never gives it up. It's the most impressive thing that you've ever seen.
If anybody's wondering what the value of an all-age dog is, why we're trying to test those dogs on the circuit, there's your answer, right?
Oh yeah, and I'm telling you, when he goes through some country, he ain't missing nothing. If he goes through it, there ain't no birds there.
Yeah.
But it's impressive. It's
putting that kind of stamina, hunting every step. Those are important. Here's that's awesome. Here's Darrell Smith from the Gun Dog Notebook. So that's good to see, Darrell. Thanks for watching tonight on YouTube. It looks like that's awesome. Here's I didn't know you were a great reporter. Also, we're getting good work.
I did write that. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I stressed over that thing like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, I can believe that. So, well, thanks everybody for watching and commenting. That's awesome. Those are a great part of the show. So tell me just a little bit before we don't keep you too much longer. What's your field trial schedule and plans for this coming season? I know you're just going to work dogs getting ready, just like everybody, just like there's going to be field trials. But
so I have a really nice pointer male. Most people have seen him on that Facebook, Poker Straight Mike, that I've been babying, and I'm hoping that I get to run him a lot more. I ended up getting a couple of derbies. I got 2 out of Dunn's Tried and True.
Okay.
That's really nice. I got a derby out of my Mike dog. That's really nice, and I got a derby out of Matt Cochran's Whippoorwill Forever Wild dog. He's the youngest of them, but he's very nice. So I hope I get to run them. So we hope this COVID allows for us to be able to cut some dogs loose in this part of the country. I hope that we get some trials going in Texas. I think they're going to be having their meeting over Zoom. So, and from what I understand is they might be Region 7 committee might be having the Texas Open Shooting Dog Championship this year. So I'm praying that it's right up my alley if they have that at the Cricket Tree Ranch on those wild birds.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I to contain myself if that's what happens, But so hopefully I just started getting my gun dogs in and my field trial dogs that I'm breaking in, and so we run a pretty busy schedule right now. So,
yep, I bet. Anything on the judging calendar for the fall?
I haven't gotten the call yet. There were some people that I did commit to last year if they have a trial. I think the Gordon Setter folks asked me last year to judge their nationals, and so hadn't got the calls yet. But I think everybody's trying to figure out this whole COVID stuff,
right?
And if they can have a trial or not. But I do like to do one in the fall, one in the spring.
Sure.
And that way, and and I'll take anything. I don't mind. I don't mind judging a weekend trial and I also like judging the championship. So I like to see dogs.
Yep. Well, that's great. Well, I won't keep you too much longer. I appreciate you coming on, Adrian. It's been fun to catch up. Everybody, make sure you share this out there, like I mentioned before, and keep spreading the word. We're gonna keep doing these. I definitely have a show scheduled for next week, and I believe the week after that. So we're going to get into the season and keep talking about bird dogs and field trials, and we're going to have a lot of fun talking about it, just like we did tonight. So, Adrian, thanks for joining me.
Good seeing you again.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great night.
Thank you.
You bet.